Hello, I'm now going to record Daf Tzadik Ches. We're up to the bottom of Tzadik Zayin Amud Beis, two lines from the bottom. Taner Rabbanan, the Rabbanan taught in a Brisa, Hazayrik Rishus Harabim Rishus Harabim. If somebody throws from one Rishus Harabim to the other, Rishus Hayachid Be'emtza, and it crosses through a Rishus Hayachid, Dalet Amos, if the total distance that it crosses in the Rishus Harabim is 4 Amos, 2 Amos in the first Rishus Harabim, then it crosses the Rishus Hayachid and 2 Amos in the second Rishus Harabim, he's Chayiv. Pachas mi Arba Amos, if the total distance traveled in the 2 Rishus Harabim is less than 4 Amos, you're Potter. My Kamashmalon, what is the Brisa teaching me? HaKamashmalon, it's teaching me that Rishuyos mitztarfos, that Rishus Harabim A is mitztarf for Rishus Harabim B, even though there was a Rishus Hayachid in the middle. And that's Udulai Amrina Kluta Kimashahuncha. We're not going to say that it took a stop when it was crossing through the Rishus Hayachid, because if it took a stop, that you can't combine the two Amos of Rishus Harabim A and the 2 Amos of Rishus Harabim B. So it's not considered as if it stopped, and the 2 Amos of Rishus Harabim A and 2 Amos of Rishus Harabim B are cumulative, even though there was a Rishus Hayachid in the middle. The next piece of Gemara, needs some visuals, but we'll do the best we can trying to describe it audio. Imagine, let's say, on the two sides of your Gemara, you have a wagon in the middle of your right side of the Gemara, and a wagon in the middle of your left side of the Gemara. This wagon, from the bottom of your Gemara to the top, its length is 5 amos long. The actual wagon width is 2.5 amos wide, but on each side of the wagon you have wheels. So from the outside of the wagon wall until the outside of the wheel is an amma and a quarter. And the same thing on the left, let's say, wagon wall to the outside of the wheel is again an amma and a quarter. So altogether it means there's a square. The wagon was 5 amos long, and the amma really was 5 amos wide, because the actual wagon itself was 2.5, but 1.25 until the outside of one wheel, and 1.25 at the outside of the other wheel, totals 5. Now this wagon that's on the right side of your Gemara, you have the same wagon like that on the left side of your Gemara, and from the outside left wheel to the outside right wheel of the two wagons, there's also 5 amos space. So that's for starters, and we're going to try to work with that. Amar of Shmuel bar Yehuda, Amar of Abba, Amar of Huna, Amar Rav. If somebody carries something for 4 amos in Rishus Harabim, but the Rishus Harabim is covered, Potter is Potter, because it's not called Arba amos Rishus Harabim, because it's not like the Rishus Harabim that the Yidden had when they were in the Midbar. Now the wagons that I just mentioned to you were standing in the Rishus Harabim. So the Gemara asks the Kasha, Aini, is this true that the Rishus Harabim in the Midbar was not covered? But the wagons, the Mekairos Havyan. Why were they Mekairos? Because the wagon had 4 walls around it, and on top of which they laid the boards. Let me explain a little bit better. You know that on the north side of the Mishkan there were 20 boards, and on the south side of the Mishkan there were 20 boards, and on the back side of the Mishkan were 8, which is a total of 48 boards. You also remember that in last week's Parsha in Nosai, Merori was given 4 wagons. 4 out of the 6 was given to Merori to carry the 48 boards. That means that each wagon had 12 boards. Now, when they stacked l'chayra the boards on the wagon, and Rabbi Sai, the way the boards were stacked on the wagon, the boards were 10 amos long, and the 10 amos were stacked across the width of the wagon, which means that the center 5 amos of the board was over the wagon and its wheels. It extended 2.5 amos on one side and 2.5 amos on the other side past the wheels. That's why I said before that the 2 wagons that were side by side had a space of 5 amos between them, because each wagon had a board that hung past its wheels 2.5 amos. So 2.5 amos and 2.5 amos, you needed 5 amos of space between the wagons. Anyway, Eini v'agolo is the Mekairos Havyan. So these wagons, when you put the boards on them, are covered with a cover. The boards become a ceiling. Rav Mishum Rab Chia, and Rav said in the name of Rab Chia, Agolos, that these wagons, Tachteim, under the wagon, Beineihem, between one wagon and the other, Vitzideim, and even the space between the wagon and the wheel, are all considered Rishus Harabim. Question is, how could Rav say that the space under the wagon is Rishus Harabim when that's a covered space? And Rav says that in the Rishus Harabim in the Midbar was not a covered space. The Gemara answers, Ki Kama Rav. Rav says, B'dorosa. The way they stacked the boards on the wagon, there were spaces between the boards. And where there was a space between the boards, that space did not create a covered spot. So when he said there's a Rishus Harabim under the wagon, it means under the spaces between the boards. The Gemara asks, how does this math work? Michdi, let's do the cheshbon. Urka dagola kamahavi. As I told you, from the bottom of your Gemara to the top of your Gemara, which is the length of the wagon, how long was the wagon? Its length, chamesh amin, 5 amos. Pusya de keresh kamahavi. How wide was each keresh of the krushim of the Mishkan? Amsa palga. It was an amma and a half wide. So kama moisiv, how many krushim of 1.5 amos wide can you place on a 5 amma long wagon? You can place tlasa 3. 3 times 1.5 is 4.5. Pasha le palgadamsa. So all you're left with is a half an amma. A half an amma is 3 tvachim. Kishadi le mar beine beine. When you divide those 3 tvachim between board number 1 and board number 2, and board number 2 and board number 3, so there's a tefach and a half from board to board. So kilavudami, that's considered that it's attached. So therefore, under the entire wagon is considered covered. The wagon was only 5 amos long. 3 boards covered 4.5 amos of surface, and the spaces between one board and the other was only a half an amma each. And half an amma is 3 times 1.5 is 4.5. So there was only half an amma space left. A half an amma is 3 tvachim. That 3 tvachim is divided between board number 1 and board number 2, and board number 2 and board number 3. So therefore it's all attached, and the underside of the wagons are covered. The Gemara answers, Mi savras kroshim apusayu havaman chiluhu achudan manachluhu. Do you think that the boards were lying on their width, so they laid down 3 times 1.5? They stacked the boards on their thickness. And if you remember from Parshas Truma, each board was 1 amma thick. So therefore now, saif in the end, sumcha the keresh kamahavi, how thick was each keresh of the Karshia Mishkan? Amsa, 1 amma. Kama hama moisif, how many of these boards can you stack on a 5 amma long wagon? Arbo, you can't stack 5, it's going to fall off. But you can stack 4. So if you stack 4 boards, each one is an amma thick on a 5 amma long wagon, pashul amsa, you're left with 1 amma of space. Now, kishadi la mar beine beine, if you take that amma, which is 6 tvachim, and divide it between the 3 spaces, between board 1 to 2, 2 to 3, and 3 to 4, kilavudami. So the 1 amma, which is 6 tvachim, divided by 3 spaces, is 2 tvachim each. So it should be lavud. So the Gemara says, well, Hani Chalaman Omar, I have an idea. If we hold that the Kroshim Milmaton Oivian Amma, if we hold that each board at the bottom was an Amma thick, and Milmalon Kolin V'Holchen, but from being an Amma thick at the bottom, it narrowed until the end it was Keretzba, it was only an Etzba. So now if you can imagine, okay, here you got to use your, okay, maybe you can see me. If you can imagine a board that is standing at the bottom an amma, but then it slants until it comes to the top, a tip. So then from the tip, from the end of the board until where it would have been if it's straight, is 6 tvachim. If you have another board next to it, and the other board is slanted, again at the bottom it's an amma thick, but that thickness of an amma is diagonally cut to a point, so where the 2 points are, as long as one is cut in one direction, one is cut in the other direction, you have 12 tvachim. Again, an amma 6 tvachim. So at the base, each board was 6 tvachim thick. So you have 2 boards, each one is 6 tvachim thick. But each of the boards, if they were cut on a diagonal from the bottom to the top, so it comes out at the top, there's no more 6 tvachim each. It's 0 each, or 2 etzbois. So therefore, if you have now 12 tvachim of space on top, then at which, and again, we're doing a diagonal down to the bottom, so then it'll come out, you can do the math, that after 2.5 amos of height, there will be 3 tvachim space. Again, on top, where one board is cut diagonally like this, and one board is cut diagonally like this, the top is 12 tvachim, 2 amos. So then halfway down, it's 6 tvachim. And then 3/4 of the way down, it's 3 tvachim. So therefore, most of the board had more than 3 tvachim space. So then it works. But if you hold that the boards were perfectly squared, the same way it was an amma thick at the bottom with an amma thick at the top. So once again, if you had 4 boards of an amma thick lying side by side on the wagon, that only leaves you 1 amma left. 1 amma divided between 3 spaces between the boards should be lavud. Rav Kana says be'at be'e. Be'at be'e means that they lied one board mamish up against the other, so 2 times 1 is 2. Then they also lied another 2 boards against each other, so 2 times 1 is 2, and left an amma space between one set of 2 and the other set of 2. That amma is 6 tvachim. 6 tvachim is not lavud, and under that hole, that's where Rav says is a Rishus Harabim. But under the covered part is not a Rishus Harabim. Where do you put those 2 sets of boards over the wagon? Agaba dagola, on the top of the wagon. Wasn't dagola gufa makora havoy? Wasn't the wagon itself didn't have a floor? The Gemara answers no. It didn't have a floor. Amar Shmuel b'Yiseidos. Shmuel says that the walls of the square of the wagon had no floor. It just had some, iron or strong bars across it with more than 3 tfachim from one to the other, because anyway, it just had to hold big boards. So that's why Rav said in the beginning of the sugya that if you carry Arba Amas in a Rishus Harabim that has a roof, you're not chayiv. Why? Because the Rishus Harabim in the midbar did not have a roof. And the wagons that stood in the Rishus Harabim, they did have, so to speak, a roof, because when you put down 4 boards across the wagon, you covered 4 out of the 5 amas of its length, but 1 amma was left open, and under there was the Rishus Harabim. But under the boards was not a Rishus Harabim. I'm going to pause here and record this part first.